This is Bert Miller with MRI the Network, and today I have a guest, and it's outstanding professional story and life story, Mr. Bill Schultz from Dane County up near in Wisconsin. 32 years Bill has been part of the MRI organization, a successful 32 years with us. He has a love for baseball, and he's an inspiration as well. So we're looking forward to getting started. Welcome to the show, Bill.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Great. So let's get started, Bill, and talk a little bit about your professional history in the executive recruitment world and specifically MRI. So take me back to 1988 when you got started.
Yeah, it was in July of 1988. I traveled to Cleveland, Ohio for franchise training class, which was quite a positive experience. Although it started, Jerry Hill was our instructor, our trainer, and he was a drill instructor in the military. And we all walked in thinking we knew it all. And within 2 days, he had us feeling as incompetent as we should. And from then on, he built us up. He taught us all the basics. Back then, of course, we didn't have any computers, so we did our daily planners by hand. We had cards for candidates, cards for companies. Talked about a balanced day of having 40 calls in the morning to companies and 40 calls in the afternoon to candidates, reference calls. That was the plan. And they had a saying they got from Lou Scott, who was a pioneer in the group. He says, you sod or spin the dial until you puke. And that was the basics of the plan. And that was a great plan. And of course, it got all computerized, but that was a great experience. We had 25 guys in the class, and
well,
it was a great training.
Well, good for you. Obviously, it's good for you, Bill. And obviously, it's worked out very well for you. And times have changed, right? From the daily planner you used to write to where we are today in the digital world that we are currently living in. So if you go back over the past 32 years and what has been a very successful career for you, what was the impetus or what helped you drive to your decision to get into the recruitment world?
Well, interesting enough, I was up in Syracuse, New York, with General Electric Company, who I was with for 16 years. And I got a call from the MRI office locally talking about a job in the Syracuse area. And they wanted to talk to me about it as a candidate. And before then, a number of people said that I had the personality for human resources. But anyway, I went out, talked to the owner. And at the end of the conversation, he said, Bill, have you ever thought about getting into recruiting? And I said, well, as a matter of fact, some people have commented on maybe that being a path down the road, but haven't really given it any thought. And so he referred me to a gentleman at MRI by the name of Bob Angel, who was the individual that sold franchises. And we began to talk, and Bob would tell you that I was probably the most reluctant guy. From the time we talked, it was about 6 years later before I decided to buy the franchise. What was holding me back a little bit was, of course, money. I was living in the Boston area at the time. But when we moved to Madison, we were able to build some equity and was able to go to a bank. And I called Bob one day and I said, Bob, I'm ready to go. And fortunately, there was an MRI, there was a management recruiter's office here, but not a sales consultant's office here. So in 1988, I opened up doors. Again, it all started with an interview at the MRI office in Syracuse.
Right. Well, congratulations again for that. So it's, obviously over these last 32 years, and before we shift gears, Bill, and move on to a couple other topics, talk to us a little bit about your experience with MRI and the community and the friends and people that you've met, or what's really influenced you over those 32 years to allow you to be well over an $8 million plus biller over that period of time, that's outstanding. And I'd love to hear from you that journey.
Yeah. I talked to a lot of owners and account executives across the country. One of the things that really helped me at the start was the inter-office referral program. I would get jobs, but I had no candidates. So I began to find out, okay, what offices specialize in this or that, and began to call out to other offices. And by doing that, number one, I found candidates, but equally important was I found guys and gals that were really good at what they did. I picked their brains. We became friends. We began exchanging jobs. And so that was an incredibly great tool to build a network of people. And then going to the global workshops where you finally got to meet a lot of the owners, but also met a lot of new ones and exchange ideas. And, what I found was everybody that I met at MRI was very much down to earth. They weren't egotistical or they understood that we all were in a kind of a very challenging profession, that we needed help from others. And so I've met some incredibly nice people in MRI over the years.
Isn't that the story that I hear from so many people, and including you now, Bill? The community at MRI, the training, the opportunity to build friendships and show up to meetings and gain nuggets. And it's really amazing how other owners, perceived competitors, right, that are willing to provide those nuggets and learning tools to other owners in the network. It's one of the most amazing things that I find about MRI that is just absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it definitely was. I wouldn't have survived, Bert, in those first few months, 6 months, without sharing jobs. I had my first placement was an inter-office referral with a guy named Jack White out of Chicago, and I didn't really understand the splits, and I thought I was getting more than I thought, and I sent the bill to Jack, and Jack said, "Well, it works like this," but he said, "You know what? I know this is your first placement, so I'm going to give you what you invoiced me at, even though it was wrong." So, and that was repeated. Inter-office referral fees for those first 2 years really helped me get my feet on the ground.
Yeah.
And build up some revenue so I could, hire more account executives.
Isn't it amazing? We do not forget, none of us forget our first placement. That you worked with Jack White to do an IOR, and my first placement was a guy named Jeff Sutner. So, and that's 25 years ago. It's amazing how you never forget the first one. So let's shift gears and kind of move over toward your personal story a bit. And now you've come to retirement from MRI, not because you're done. You're just getting started, I think. And the legacy that you're now beginning and the mission that you are moving toward is something really, really special. So kind of walk us through and the next chapter, how you've crossed that bridge over into the Miracle League.
Yeah, well, I was born with some congenital deformities. I had my right leg amputated shortly after birth. It wasn't growing properly. I have a left arm that's short and deformed, and my hand is deformed on that arm. But I had a love for anything involving a ball, particularly baseball. My parents let me try anything I wanted. Even with an artificial limb, I was able to keep up with all my buddies, and we ended up playing baseball at the corner lot every day, every summer. Come the age of 9, we all became eligible to try out for Little League. And so we went up for tryouts, and they had us hit, field, throw, run. And my friend said, "Bill, you did really well." better as well as anybody. And they told us to come back the next night to be assigned to a team. And so I went back up with my parents the next night, and this gentleman approached us who turned out to be the commissioner of the league. Didn't look very happy, but he put his hand on my shoulder and he said, "Billy, we're not going to be able to let you play because you're either going to hurt yourself or hurt somebody with your artificial limb." And I went from exhilaration the night before to devastation the next evening. And so when I thought I was going to be inside the fence playing on the field, I was outside the fence watching my friends play.
Yeah.
Now, 60 some odd years later, probably more than that, I was watching NBC Nightly News. They have a segment called Inspiring America, and they're talking about all of a sudden I see on the screen kids with wheelchairs, walkers, having trouble walking, autistic children playing baseball on a little league sized field. And they called it the Miracle League. And David Price, a Boston Red Sox pitcher, wanted to do something for his hometown in Tennessee. And he heard about it and he established this Miracle League. And so my wife said later on, "Your mouth was wide open and you really got misty eyed." And I said, "Wow." And she said, "I know exactly what you're going to do right now. You're going to check up on this. I know you are." And that's exactly what I did. And I visited their headquarters and everything was confirmed in my mind. And I said to myself, this is something I could do to give back to our community here in Madison. And it just looked like a circle had been, it had come full circle.
Yeah, that's a great story, Bill. And you think about what you've done, and it has come full circle. But starting in 1988, you started impacting lives in the recruitment world. You started changing people's careers and helping companies grow as you help build their teams. And then now you have come full circle. And I just think it's just so inspirational that you've had this career that's enabled you to bring your childhood and even maybe a moment in your childhood that was not so pleasant for you, and how you're going to be able to impact others. I mean, you spent your whole life impacting people, and that's amazing. So congratulations on that.
Well, I appreciate it. It's been a real passion the last year or so, trying to raise funds, raise awareness. We've talked to a lot of people that have kids with disabilities, and they're pretty excited.
No, that's great. So let's talk about that for a second, Bill. Your fundraising goal, and certainly, I don't know what the original total was. I believe it was around $500,000 or $600,000, and you've raised a solid portion of that. And obviously, COVID hit, so you're well on your way to build the dream for some children there in Wisconsin, and allowing you to, again, come full circle and lead that organization and continue to impact those lives. So the fundraising aspect, where do you stand today, and walk me through that.
Well, we got off to a great start, and we were at $200,000 this past March, with other foundations being interested in us, but COVID-19 hit and fundraising kind of came to a halt. It wasn't the right thing to ask people for money at the time. The foundations we were talking to diverted their funds to COVID-19 issues, which is totally understandable. So we just flattened right out. And so we're now at a point where people are beginning to, consider us, but we're only 40% there. We're trying very desperately to get the earthwork done, the excavating, grading, concrete base done before the ground gets hard, and do the remainder next year. But we've got a hill to climb, but there's no question we're going to get done. But we might not get it done by spring of 2021. We just have to we're just trying out, talking to people about it each and every day. And hopefully, some people will it will touch their heart to donate.
Well, we're going to take this interview, obviously, and we're gonna push it for you as well, and give you an opportunity to create something later today for your page. And I just want to go through that before I jump into baseball, because I want to talk about baseball here in a second. The website is Dane County, DANE, Dane County Miracle League.org.
Correct.
And if the listeners want to go there, there's certainly a button there you can hit to provide donation. Is that correct?
Right at the top, donations, and they can either donate through the website, or there's also a GoFundMe link there also.
All right. So everybody out there that sees this, go to that website and hit that button. All right. Let's talk a little bit about baseball. You kind of started that story when, you guys played baseball every day as a kid, and then you had the opportunity to try out at 9 years old for Little League. But why is baseball so passionate for you?
I don't know. It just, my dad was a baseball fan. We used to listen to baseball games on the radio back when people did that. But again, I was attracted to anything involving the ball. I mean, baseball was my spring and summer thing. We played touch football in the fall. My aunt taught me how to play golf, did bowling, but baseball kind of stood out. I guess it was, I just enjoyed the pace of the game, understood it really well. And I had a lot of friends who also loved baseball, to the point where we just had a lot of kids that wanted to play ball every day. And I just fell in love with the game. Probably people will not donate when they hear I'm a New York Yankee fan, but I grew up with the Yankees, and they were fairly successful, and that was kind of inspirational to me. My hero was Mickey Mantle, who became a great ball player. I actually had a lot of disabilities and osteomyelitis and all kinds of things, and that kind of inspired me as well.
Well, he's arguably one of the best five-tool players in the history of the game, right?
Yeah.
So you learned to play other games, everything with a ball. You played golf. The support you had growing up had to be amazing to help, continue to encourage you and build that confidence. And, I don't know, where it was that you actually grew up, but kids can sometimes not be as supported at school. But it sounds like your parents really allowed you to live a really normal life and did not use, the disabilities as an excuse. And I always refer back to Tony Dungy, the former Hall of Fame coach for the Indianapolis Colts, who always says to his players, no explanations, no excuses, regardless. And you had whatever mantra that you had, but you grabbed onto something. Talk a little bit about the people that supported you, Bill, that really allowed you to move into a very successful professional life here at MRI, to the point you could retire and go back and relive and continue to change lives from your childhood.
Yeah, my parents were wonderful. Again, back in 1945 and late 40s, early 50s, if children had disabilities, and there were plenty of them that had polio and other, you didn't see them in public. They typically were kept inside the house. Parents were worried about them hurting themselves, but there was a little shame involved. But my parents were the direct opposite. I think I drove my mom nuts inside the house, so she got me out of the house. But and then I had an aunt who was quite an athlete. Who, the one thing I didn't want to do in life was swim. I felt like I had no interest in that, and she said otherwise. She said, "I'm going to teach you how to swim because you need to know that." And she took me to a pool. She's a Red Cross instructor, and I got to the edge of the pool, and I said, "I don't want to die at the age of 8, Aunt Mickey. I'm okay." And so the next thing I knew, I was underwater. She actually pushed me in the water, and the next thing I know, she's underneath me, taking my arms and teaching me how to stroke. And all of a sudden, she couldn't get me out of the water. So
Wow.
that kind of taught me something. But she was also quite a golfer, and so she took me out to her course and let me tee it up on every shot. And eventually she took the tee away. But I was smitten with golf. And so I've been playing golf since the age of 9 or 10. Um, and but some of the people that were very instrumental were my classmates. Um, I changed schools 4 times. Those first few weeks at every school, there was a lot of stares, a lot of snickers, but because of my parents, I had the confidence enough to go up to people and introduce myself and try to be their friends. And not everybody wanted to be my friend, and a lot of them still were kind of saying mean things, but it was just they became my best friends, my greatest encouragers all the way through high school. And when we went to my 50th high school reunion, they asked me to talk. And I spent the whole 20 minutes thanking each one of them for the encouragement they gave me. And one of my friends said, "Bill, you ought to write a book about your life." And I said, "Well, I'd like to leave something for my family, but no, you need to write a book about your story." And so surprisingly, I can't believe I did it, but I did publish a book. And what it turned out to be is something that allowed me to celebrate the people that were in my life that were the encouragers, were the ones that got me to where I am now. Took me through a lot of hurdles. I began to, at first when I wrote the book, I said, it's hard to write about yourself. But eventually I realized, okay, this is about the people in my life. And that was a great therapeutic experience. And it made me realize how many people helped me in my life.
But I'm sorry to interrupt you. You just answered my question right there, Bill. It's amazing when you go back and you're able to take that history and you're able to write your history down and how that is therapeutic. And it's amazing to go back and rewind that tape and understand all the great people that help support you along the way. Man, you are truly an inspiration. For those in the audience out there, the name of the book is Shorthanded, A Young Boy's Triumph Over. So pick that book up if you can. I'm sure it's on Amazon, right, Bill?
Yeah, Amazon, Barnes and Noble.
Okay,
Yeah.
Great. Now, I also understand you go around and you speak to elementary children, correct?
I do.
Yeah. What's your inspiration there? Why do you do that?
Well, again, some people said, I started thinking, with all the bullying that you hear about and going on in the schools, I thought, I'd love to go out and talk to the kids about how my classmates affected me by accepting me and encouraging me. But also, what a lot of my classmates told me at the reunion, Bill, he said, "Bill, you inspired me more than we inspired you. And you had an impact on my life." And I talked to the kids about the fact that, by accepting and encouraging others, even if we're all different to begin with. You are building your own personal character. And we all need to accept people in any shape or form, regardless. And it's got to, in my opinion, it's got to start, early in your life. And once you do that, you'll be able to get along with so many other people. In the business world, any world, you're around people that you don't like or you don't feel comfortable with, but you respect them. And so I began talking to schools around the area. I developed a foundation called Jump In Foundation to try to build on that. And I haven't done much lately, but every time I go out, it seems to resonate with the kids. The kids, it's kind of like oh wow, I didn't, it's kind of, never thought about that. So particularly with middle schoolers who are forming forming personalities and relationships. That is something I just felt led to
Yeah.
do.
I'm only, I'm sitting here listening to this interview, Bill, and I've done a few of these, and I got to tell you, this is probably the most inspiring one that I've had the opportunity to do. And I'm kind of sorry, we just have recently had a chance to meet, but man, what a true inspiration. Enjoy the story, and again, if you think about what you're doing and going around and talking to these children, again, it comes back to building confidence. It comes back to helping people, and it's amazing that you have your team, not your team, but your classmates at your 50th reunion. You're the one that inspired them. So the impact that you're having right now, even if it's just one child, is going to be long lasting. So 40, 50 years from now, I guarantee you there's going to be somebody that is going to say, this guy came and talked to us at our school, and for some reason it connected with me. So 40 or 50 years from now, Bill, somebody will be telling that story.
I got to tell you one story. Our minor league team in town held a Miracle League night for us last summer, and they said you can have somebody throw out the first ball. So I put a call out. I said, I'd love to find a child with a disability to throw out the first pitch. And we found an autistic child, Andrew, and he was so excited. We almost nearly lost him he was run on the field too early. But anyway, we got him out on the pitcher's mound. And I said, Andrew, now you don't have to pitch from the pitcher's mound. You can go about halfway down and throw to the catcher. An autistic child. And he said, Bill, I'm going to throw it from the pitcher's mound. And he did. He bounced it, but right to the catcher. But the great story was his father texted me. This is 3 weeks later. They're in the grocery store going down the aisle. And Andrew turned to his dad and he said, Dad, I threw out the first pitch at the baseball field. So, those little things have an incredible impact on a child.
They do. Well, thank you for that story, Bill. Thank you for the time that you've spent at MRI and being a part of this amazing network. You'll always be a part of it, even though you're moving to another chapter to impact lives in another way. So thank you for joining us. My name is Bert Miller. This is MRI Network.